Hey guys, this is Conrad in the making. New topic for today, the TEAS test. It's required by a lot of nursing schools to get in, so let me run through a little bit about the test. If you've never heard of it or taken it before, let me run through some tips, and then I'll wrap it up with my experience about it. Let's get to it. The TEAS test is otherwise known as the Test for Essential Academic Skills. It's kind of like an ACT that you took in high school to get into college, except it's required by a lot of nursing schools, not all of them, to have a minimum score to even be considered for the program, and they base it off of competition for their students whenever ranking their applicants. The test takes about 4 hours to complete, a little under, and it's got 4 sections. It has reading, math, science, and English. The reading section is a huge portion of the test. They allot you about 64 minutes to complete it. It shouldn't take you that long based on how prepared you are, but it tests for a variety of different components. You have craft, you have reading comprehension, obviously, that's a big part always in reading exams. A lot of times it'll give you a word that you may not be familiar with, and you'll have to use context clues to kind of understand what that word means. Ultimately, it's just seeing if you can look at a passage, read it, understand the structure, and then answer questions based on that passage. The math isn't something you need to count out either. It's 54 minutes is the time it allots you, and you're going to be using up a lot of that time. It includes, obviously a lot of numbers, a lot of calculations you have to do. I had to work with percents quite a bit. You have to do data interpretation, algebra. A lot of times they're looking at whether you can understand how measurements work, if you can look at a problem, understand what measurement they're using, and then answer a question based on predictions of that measurement. Science can be a misleading topic because you may think that you're a nursing major, you've been through science classes, you've been through A&P, you've been through chemistry, things like that you should know all this stuff, but the questions they throw at you is pretty difficult. They allot you 63 minutes for this time. And a lot of times it is human anatomy and physiology, but you're faced with other questions like genetics and even scientific reason that brings into more of a reading comprehension part. If you can look at an experiment or a graph or something and take numbers from that and answer questions based on it. The English section is the shortest portion of the test. It gives you 28 minutes to complete, and you have to fly through those questions quickly. They'll give you sentences, they'll give you small paragraphs, and what they're looking for is if you can understand conventions of grammar in the English language, if you can understand wide vocabulary. They're going to give you questions based on that. They'll give you synonyms, antonyms, and all of that jazz that you would ultimately expect from an English exam. With all that being said, it can be overwhelming. You look at it first at 4 hours to complete, 4 sections. It tests for a lot of academic skills, obviously, some that you may not have had classes in for several years, but ultimately the TEAS test is about preparedness. It's a test of how well you can prepare, how well you can study for it. So I'm going to give you some tips so before you go into the test, you know exactly what to expect. First tip I can give you is take the TEAS test early. Not only is this going to help you familiarize yourself with it, but it's going to give you time to retake it if your score doesn't turn out the way you want it. There's a lot of instances where I talk to pre-nursing majors, they're wanting to get into school at a certain year, at a certain time. They haven't taken the TEAS test already. They go and take it the last chance they get. It's not that good. They submit their application, get denied because they didn't have a chance to retake it. And they've got to wait an entire year before reapplying to that program. Following up with that is my second tip is register early. You don't know how fast these campuses are going to fill up. You may not get a spot in some of these if you wait till the last minute. Also, I find that if I register for something early, if I have a set date for it, I'm more committed to study for it since I know that I have to be ready for the test by a certain day. Third tip is use practice tests. This is the most important way to study for the TEAS test. There's books at Barnes & Noble, other bookstores, companies that make online study guides and hardcover study guides that give you practice tests available. This is the best way to familiarize yourself with the text. And studies have proven time and time again that practice tests are not only the way to study and succeed for TEAS tests, but in every realm of academic activity, practice tests are the way to go. I'll throw up a link in the description about a TED Talk that describes how effective practice tests are and how they affect students and their studies. My fifth and final tip for you guys is don't take this test lightly. You really don't want it to be the reason that you don't get into a certain nursing school. Don't go into it not prepared. Don't go into it thinking, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. I'll just get this through. My grades will outshine it. That may not be the case. So I would consider definitely going and utilizing these online resources they have. There's stuff in the App Store, the stuff in the Android market that helps you with this. There's flashcards. So don't take it lightly. It's easy to prepare and it's easy to pass once you are. Finishing up here, I'll let you know my experience. I took the TEAS test. I finished with an 88 overall composite score. Fell in about the 97th percentile of those that take it. I went in a little prepared, not as prepared as I could have been, but it's a low scoring test. People make 64, 65 on average on this test, and that's usually the minimum that schools require for you even to be considered for admission. I can't even tell you how glad that I am that I took it once. I don't have to take it again. Because 1, it costs a lot of money. 2, it takes time to drive up there. And 3, I just don't want to take a standardized test again. And they're awful, they're annoying. So just stick through it, study through it, pass it the first time, get it over with. It's not too bad. My question for you today, throw it in the comments if you want to participate, is for those that have taken the test, how was it? Do you have any tips for those who haven't taken it? And for those who haven't taken it, what are you expecting from it? What are you hoping to get on it? And tell me what you're doing right now to prepare for it. Yeah guys, that's all I got for you today. Remember, the TEAS test is about preparedness. You don't have to know all these things. Prepare for it, practice test all the way. You'll do just fine, get through it. I believe in you guys. Stay strong, keep the community. I'll see you in the next one.